Hey, welcome back everybody. And today's video is going to be slightly different only because I am not going to be here this weekend as I am traveling. Now the guys will be hard at work on the aircraft because we are wanting to make some noise with those J79s. So I don't know when, but I know we're planning on doing that soon. I just don't know how soon. Could be next weekend, could be a couple weekends from now, but yes, we definitely want to make some noise, see where we're at, and keep on moving with this, because the sooner we get to that, the more we can take care of, and the sooner she is ready to go back into the sky. So though I'm not here this weekend, the guys will be doing a pretty dang good job keep working on the airplane. So with that in mind, today's video is going to be for all the model builders. And if you guys remembered, I put a community post out a few months ago asking for some suggestions of stuff that you guys would like to see detail of. Keep in mind that ever since I've gotten the GoPros, everything that I film here at the hangar is in 4K. And as long as I pan the camera pretty slowly, it should not pixelate, so you guys should get some clear images of everything that I have a list of that you guys wanted to see. So with that in mind, let's get going on this, and I will narrate as needed as we go along. Now, a big reference for you guys, this very F-4 Phantom was for the US Air Force. She was built in 1965 and is a Block 28D model. So with that frame of reference, a lot of her equipment is still somewhat original. Because of her role, she primarily was on the nuclear deterrent mission over in Europe. She wasn't a frontline fighter so much as she was a tactical nuclear bomber at times. So a lot of her avionics, she was not upgraded with the newer radars and some of the newer avionics, so she is largely still original, and I'll point out those differences as we go along. So our first stop is right here in door 19, so let me get the camera around for you guys. All right, so here is the door. This is the inside of door 19, and there's a couple of things attached to it. So right there, that is an antenna for the radar warning receiver, which is non-functional in our jet, so I can't turn that on at all. That's just the upper fuselage light, and that is an addition for us down here at the bottom. That is a GPS antenna for us. And here's a shot. So here's the kickstand for holding this thing open. It's permanently attached here, and the temporary is at the bottom. That's where it's pinned in place. Now for us as well, so the equipment bay, as I understand it, is laid out very much the same across all Phantoms. You had two rows here that equipment could be mounted in their respective trays. For the most part, this is original equipment. Some of this stuff is missing because it was removed by the Air Force before they gave us the airplane. And some things are additions that would not be on a normal Phantom. So like this receiver that should be right here, or receiver transmitter, APX 76, that's missing. There's an amplifier that should be here, that's missing. These two radios over here on this side, and I'll get over there here in a second, but those are VHF radios. That is unique to us here on this airplane. I'm not sure if those would have ever existed on a normal Phantom in active service. All right, so here is the left-hand side of the electronics bay. And most of these wire bundles are still original too, so There's only a couple of extra cables that we added, or that were added to give us the capabilities of having GPS for navigation and operating around civilian airfields, as well as the VHF capability. Over here on the right-hand side of the electronics bay, try to get the rear bulkhead for you guys. That's some sort of sealant. I'm not sure exactly what this is. I know some of you maintainers would likely know exactly what that is. Please feel free to chime in on that. I love learning this kind of stuff. If I'm not mistaken, that's some sort of shock mount for the equipment. Pivot around. Alrighty. Alright, so there is door 19. Up next is getting in between the cockpits. Alright, so I'm sitting in the pilot's cockpit looking towards the Wizzo's cockpit. This is the back of his instrument panel there. Some things have been removed. Other things should be here because there ordinarily would be an ejection seat where I'm sitting. And there's some stuff that's added like this GoPro mount, but for the most part this is still original and mostly functional. This is the back of the radar warning receiver, which is completely in op for us. And just a lot of the instruments and such here. A lot of cable bundles. I know you don't get to see a lot of this in photographs. This here is just the lifting strut for the canopy. This little guy, to my knowledge, when the canopy comes down and after a short delay, this sends a little bit of pressurized air between here and that guy in order to inflate the canopy seals. Alright, that's between the cockpits. I think our next stop is down below. I know the louvers, especially down on the bottom, were an item that people wanted to see. Yeah, I figure while I'm up here, I'll get the upper louvers too. So there's the air intake and the splitter plate and the vari-ramp. And you can see how it separates here. I'll get some better shots of that because there's some support struts there. But here's the louvers. These do move air, they're not just here for looks. Alright, here's the louvers on the bottom of the engine intakes. So the lower fuselage light there. And coming up is the bottom of the splitter plate and vari-ramp. And I'm gonna get those louvers up there next, because that was a specific request there. So let me move the light and I'll get over there. All right, so here's the left forward sparrow well. There's the pin switch that lets the airplane's weapon system know that there's one here or not. There's one of the ejector feet. I'm not exactly sure what that air intake does, or if it's an exhaust. I'm not exactly sure. Please chime in if you know, because again, I love learning this kind of stuff. But here is that front set of louvers. I believe this is the exhaust for the air cycle units up front here for the cabin cooling and the electronics cooling. Well, they just come straight out. Alright, I'll get some detailed shots inside here in the gear bays. I know this was another request here. So front landing gear. There's the steering unit right there for nose wheel steering. If you're curious about that red door, that's where you could use an air conditioning cart on the ground to help cool the electronics, so you could operate it on the ground without overheating it. That's just the cover plate to feed that cold air into. And that's what closes the gear door, and also functions as an up lock too, if I'm not mistaken. There's one of the high pressure air accumulators. That one is for emergency brakes, if I remember correctly. And wow, it's still holding air. Perfect. Now, I've been asked about this specifically, to pop this open. I don't know how to pop this open. I'll do what I can, but at the least I can open the small doors and get a light in there and poke around in there. Yeah, right, I got it open and ours is empty. I don't remember what goes down here. Again, please let me know. Please chime in below if you know what went down here. Neat stuff though. Worth showing because I just found this on the back of that door. It's a 924th. I'll have to look up the history of our Phantom. I'd love to know that. I think she served in the 924th. I'm sorry, I don't know the history off the top of my head, but that does ring a bell. Love it. All right, here is a request for fasteners. So we got a lot of fasteners on this aircraft. Some are painted over because these just are never opened up unless there's an absolute need. Others are opened up a lot more for inspections, or at least infrequently for inspections. Other doors are opened all the time for various things. But let's see if I can get a good shot. So like these ones are painted over. These ones are not, because we actually were in here. And you can definitely see where some oil or fuel has seeped out over time. It's amazing what happens, like if you get a little bit of grease or hydraulic oil that spills inside someplace and you think you wiped it out, I hear, and it just tends to creep, especially as the airplanes fly. It just tends to leave streaks. There's some big fasteners over there. I want to get into that panel at some point because from what I understand, the build number is on the back of it. Been something curious. I'm not going to open it tonight, but I definitely want to get in there at some point. All right, this was another big area for us, which is the tail hook, the rear empennage, and the undersides of the horizontal stabs where you normally wouldn't get to see in pictures, like, because if you see it from the side, you only see the top surface and not what's underneath. So for you guys as well, these are the Dash 15 J79. So the tail, the nozzle is going to be, I think these are shorter than the 17s. I think the 17 has a slightly longer nozzle, but that's the nozzle of the Dash 15s. But here's the tail hook. I had a question a while back on how heavy this thing is. As far as I know, it's a couple hundred pounds. I don't have the exact weight, but it is a couple hundred pounds, and we are taught specifically to never walk underneath this despite it being cabled in place in case it does drop. It's just a bad habit to be into, so I'm trying to keep safe around these things. But let me get up close to the hook for you guys. We keep our tail hooks shiny. That's something that Crew Chief Al is very, very good about, is keeping this thing very clean. He'll always walk over and with a nice little cleaning rag and polish her up from time to time. And this tail hook is still functional, and this is a replaceable item as it wears down. Probably wears down a lot faster in Navy use. All right, we back out, and the titanium panels have to deal with all the heat from these amazing engines. Now, I've seen where some of these get polished up. Other squadrons would just leave these alone and just clean them occasionally. I think we're somewhere in between. We try to keep them clean, but at the same time, we're not going to spend a huge amount of effort just to polish these things. So, for you guys that actually worked on these things back during their heyday, is this normal, or is this dirty, or is this... I know this isn't polished, but how does this compare to what you guys saw out in the squadrons and out in the fleet? There's our tail number, or there's our registration number, I should say. 749 Charlie Fox. And I'll pivot the light around again, but I'll get to the tail hook and move my way back. Alright. Move the light for you guys. Oh, about at the limit of the extension cord there. Alright, part of the pivot mechanism coming up. That T-handle is how we can pop open the tail cone so we can service the drag chute. I know that tube is a drain of some sort. I just don't recall off the top of my head what it goes to. See if I can get a light on the mechanism here. I know I'm kind of backlit and I try to avoid that. Here you guys go. I guess this helps center up the, there's a pin, and that's the lock. That's what locks up the tail hook, I believe. And that just guides it up into the lock. And then the mechanism to secure it in place with the cable. All right, so let's get the undersides of the stabs. And again, the inboards inboard half of these are also titanium, I believe. Or that or stainless steel. I think titanium though. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Again, I am never above criticism, guys. There's the lower doubler plate over there in the corner of the screen. I'll get up close to that here in a second. Actually, now that I think about it, I think these are titanium because the leading edges are stainless steel. Alright, there's the doubler plate. This was a modification. These weren't built with these, as from what I've been able to learn. And there's actually two plates. There's one on top of the stab, and then there's this one here on the bottom. And I think at first, and I'll show you why these were added, but the one on top of the wing was first, and then I think the lower one was added later. I could be backwards on that. Trying not to shadow everything. So right here, because you got, sorry, right here you got two halves, and they would start to twist, so you'd have, and I think our other side is actually showing a little bit of this, but these would start to spread apart in different directions, and that's what the doubler plates are for. See if I can get the, there's the one up top. That's as far as I can reach with my arm. That's the upper doubler plate. But this is what those solved. You see how these are definitely not together. You got a little bit of separation between the two. There is a specification to how far these can be misaligned. Ours are within. I think it's a considerable gap that they can grow to and still be within specification. But that's the problem that the doubler plate solved, is to help keep these from spreading apart too far. All right, let's see what else is on the list. Let's see if I'm looking at the screen and it looks like I got a decent amount of light on this side, even though I'm not specifically lighting this side. All right, let's go see what else is on the list. All right, we got 2 stops left on our model builders video here, and that is both main gear bays. So I am sitting underneath the left main gear well. There's a lot of the hydraulic lines and air lines and such. There's a lot of the hydraulic. That's the servicing ports for the, it's PC1, I believe, on this side. And I will show you what this little panel is. This is something that isn't seen very often. This is a ground crew servicing panel, and this is for doing all sorts of little hydraulics check. Electric transfer pumps. Right there is the wing fold switch. This is a significant departure from what the Navy and Marines had. They had their control up in the forward cockpit, and it was pilot controlled wing folding. They could even lock the wings from the cockpit controls. For Air Force, that was moved down here. If it had the hydraulic fold, E and G, they removed the hydraulic rams, and it was a manual fold only. And you still had to lock regardless of whichever method it had, you still had to lock the wings manually. But here is this switch panel in the left main gear well. Get my head out of the way so I don't shadow you guys. I believe that's one of the up locks, or that is the up lock for the gear. All right, so there is the left main gear. All right, let us move over to the right main gear. All right, everybody, right main gear well. Here is the inner door, or the inside of the inner door, I should say. And we have some more goodies on the inside surface of here. There's the connections for servicing PC2. And I'm not exactly sure what this counter does. The label for it is mostly guns, and I have no idea what it does. All right, so there's the fuel control panel. This is how we can refuel and defuel the aircraft. This is a ground crew function. And there's your master. You can turn on and off various cells and transfer valves. It's pretty neat. Part of the door assembly. This is that's a switch for when the gear is up and locked, I believe. Sorry guys, not trying to shadow you, it's just where I could put the light. Oh, here's a useful chart. Let me get the light on this better. I guess that was for the ground crew, so they could, if they needed to put a specific amount of weight on the aircraft, they could, they knew how many gallons to pump in. Cool. Speed brake, and the right main. Yes, I'm aware it's not safety wired. It's not going to get safety wired until we got a new tire on, but it is torqued properly. All right, everybody, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know you model builders will, especially with a lot of those up close shots that I was able to get. Hopefully that is very useful for you guys. Please let me know how the camera work was and if that is something that is quite useful for you guys. I'm always happy to do these kind of things. It's not lost on me the opportunity that I have with this airplane, and it's such an iconic jet, and I'm very happy that we have one and it's mostly operational, and that I get to film and share it with everybody. So again, hope you guys enjoyed that. I will be back in town next weekend. Hopefully we're making some noise with the jet. We will see. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.